Wicked is here and box offices are dearly hanging on to the hope that it will bring them to the promised land. But is it because of actresses such as Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo? Or perhaps are they making the movie make less than it could have? Today we're talking about Sydney Sweeney and traditional feminine figures on the big screen. Does it matter to the financial figures? And what will Hollywood learn from Wicked coming this way? Ladies and gentlemen, we are so happy to have you be a part of what we're doing today. Coming to you from a studio in somewhere sunny USA. Always a joy, always a pleasure to have you by our side. And folks, we'll help you decide what you think Hollywood is going to do with the battle over how women will be portrayed on the silver screen. Silver Surfer? Nay, we're not there right now, but we will be soon. Today, it is Sydney Sweeney versus Cynthia. Folks, get your like button clicking finger ready, and here we go. All right, out of the Telegraph from Madeline Ross. Sydney Sweeney, female empowerment in Hollywood is fake. Euphoria actress speaks out against disheartening trend of women tearing other women down. Here's what it says. Sydney Sweeney has condemned fake empowerment of women in Hollywood months after a female producer said she can't act. The actress and producer who rose to prominence in works such as Euphoria and Anyone But You said it was disheartening to see the women of Hollywood tear each other down. Speaking to magazine Vanity Fair, Sweeney said, "It's very disheartening to see women tear other women down, especially when women who are successful in other avenues of their industry see younger talent working really hard, hoping to achieve whatever dreams they may have, and then trying to bash and discredit any work they've done." She said, "This entire industry, all people say is women empowering other women. None of it's happening. All of it is fake and a front for all the other blank that they say behind everyone's back." So Sydney Sweeney, based in keeping it real, says all this nonsense about Hollywood and their virtue is out the door. And I think after Harvey and after Diddy, I think we're all starting to think she might be onto something there. Well, let's talk about this, because Hollywood has a choice, ladies and gentlemen. They can either connect themselves up, pair themselves to, and tether unto the Sydney Sweeneys of the world, or they can continue down this path with Wicked, with the Cynthia Erivos. This is out of The Root. Stephanie Holland, the author, says, "What's going on with Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande on the Wicked press tour? As the stars of the highly anticipated film showcase their close bond on the red carpet and in interviews, fans wonder, what's up? How does this connect? I'll show you. Wicked is one of the most popular stage musicals of all time. Since it premiered in 2003, it's been seen by countless fans around the world. These Wicked superfans have been waiting 20 years to see a film adaptation of their favorite show, and now it's finally here. On Friday, Wicked Part 1 will finally hit theaters, blibbity blah, blah, blah. Let's skip down to what matters. Here's what it says. The actresses, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, have been seen holding hands and crying on the red carpet and in interviews. This has led some people to question whether their bond is real or just public relations for the film. As TikTok user Beat by Sajek, I don't know, maybe, notes, theater kids, which both women definitely are known for being dramatic and passionate. So maybe we can chalk some of this up to that. Now, guys, we've covered this. I'm not going to play that one. We've covered this over and over now, that these two in the marketing, they're crying all the time. And it's a little bit sad. It's a little bit gross, but they're crying all the time with each other. I'm not against sharing emotions, but when it's synthetically so, seems a little strange to me when they didn't cry before, but suddenly in every interview, they just are crying with one another. Meanwhile, you've got Sydney Sweeney, and she's out there kicking butt and taking names. And she is, I think I can say this, and I hope I'm not criticized too heavily for it. Sydney Sweeney is voluptuous. Is that fair to say, guys? Can we say it that way? She is of a traditional feminine form. There we go. There's an intellectual way of saying it. Sydney Sweeney is all about being traditionally beautiful. Now, you've got her out there saying all these women are just out here backstabbing one another, and she's presenting sort of a Marilyn Monroe kind of Hollywood. And then you have the opposite with Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo, and they are, instead of, presenting themselves in the way that she is, they're out there sobbing, crying, You know, they can't hardly manage themselves. They look like they're in a therapy struggle session wherever they go. I think Hollywood has to decide which way it's going to go. It's decision time following the election. It's time for Hollywood to decide, are they going to go more or less with the traditional way of drawing in audiences, or will they be going with whatever this woke thing is that we're seeing out of Wicked? And that's why I think we're at a crossroads. I want to go to Tom first. Tom, you correct me if you see anything wrong in my assessment here, but I think that Hollywood is going to pay very close attention to how Wicked performs for them to decide what it is that audiences want out of leading ladies. And I think this might not go the way that some of us here on the panel are hoping. What do you think, Tom?
I think you may have a point, but I said the same thing about Barbie. But I mean, as long as they keep, within their own lane, I don't think it's going to be much of a problem.
Wait a minute. Hold on, Tom. I want you to go. I want you to run with this, but are you comparing Margot Robbie to Cynthia Erivo?
No.
Okay, that's what I want to clarify.
No, if anything, it's what's her face, the other one, Ariana Grande. But no, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of this. As I said before, this movie's critic proof. It doesn't have anything to do with us. It's not made for us. We're not meant to go see this movie. As far as what Sydney said, she's right. Like, we've been pointing this stuff out for a long time, how they say that they're one thing when they're a complete other thing. They talk through one side of their mouth and do with the other. As far as what they expect out of their women in Hollywood, I have no idea. Sydney Sweeney is somebody who constantly gets a lot of flack for being a beautiful, voluptuous, as you pointed out, woman who has zero F's to give about what other people think about her. And she has kind of let it be known in some ways that she does not follow along with a lot of the woke mind virus. So in that respect, I mean, she is a natural made starlet. I mean, she has worked her way up the ranks. She's been in the business since, I believe, the late 90s or early aughts. So she was a child actress. And now she's kind of gotten to this point where she's almost gaining like this Marilyn Monroe type status among people. Now, I wouldn't quite say she's gotten to that level yet, right? Like, don't get me wrong. Don't come at me or anything like that.
Right. But
she has that
the aesthetic
thing
she's aiming for.
Yeah. And she has that thing where people gravitate towards her. She's likable. She's beautiful. She does not cower at the idea that she is a very beautiful woman, and people like that. She got called out by that producer, and everybody was just like, shut the F up. What the hell are you talking about? Because she asked her whole class what the appeal was with Sydney Sweeney. It's like, I could tell you a couple reasons. Right. And they're not the two you're thinking of. One is she's not
that, and I'm not trying to say one person is more beautiful than the other.
It's not about beauty, it's more about attitude.
Right. So there's Cynthia Erivo playing the Blue Fairy in Pinocchio on Disney Plus. So these are the options that Hollywood has now. And you got to say, okay, which is going to win over with audiences? Again, has nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with beauty, has everything to do with style. Which style is going to win out? And I think Hollywood's going to take the wrong lesson from Wicked, but I don't know that to be true. Vash?
Yeah, I think they might take the wrong lesson. We'll have to see. But the star power associated with Wicked, I mean, it's definitely leaning towards Ariana Grande, but that's not really the real reason why I think as many people are interested in that film as they are. Obviously, Ariana Grande gives it very much gravitas, but they're not necessarily going for Cynthia Erivo, so it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. I will say, if you had, I don't know, somebody like a Sydney Sweeney playing that character, maybe that dynamic changes a little bit. I'm not quite sure. I will say that Sydney Sweeney, she's kind of leaned into her feminine traits, especially with like the Dr. Squash ad, for example, that she's recently done. It's interesting, but I think larger than that, it really does showcase how media is changing. People looking at Veilguard and some of these other games and going, quite, maybe not for me. Maybe looking at other games or other forms of content that feature attractive characters and so forth, and leaning towards that. I think Sydney Sweeney is coming up at the right time when you look at the culture and everything like that. But also too, I think Tom is right. It's how she acts as well. I mean, Cynthia Erivo, when she freaked out over that poster, that was a real kind of character moment, and that was kind of an let's say an ugly moment for her. Which, you know, when you contrast that with Sydney Sweeney and how she's very down to earth in that interview that you brought up, Pro, it does create quite the contrast, not just in terms of femininity or beauty, but also in how they act. I think that's also important too.
It just makes you wonder, like, if Cynthia Erivo were not the lead in Wicked, let's say it was someone like a Megan Good or Ananda Lewis, even Zendaya, like, how would the movie perform? Because what they're going to do is I think they're going to try to say that Cynthia Erivo is the headliner. And I think Ariana Grande is going to largely hand that over to her, you know, which is a very odd thing. But I think that's the way it's going to play out. And I think Hollywood is looking for viability and saying that there's still a path forward financially if we don't present women in a traditional way. Again, I'm not taking a position on this. I'm just trying to relay what I think is happening behind the scenes as they're looking at the box office. Ron, I'll give you last word on this one.
I was looking at before you brought up the image of Blue Fairy, I was actually thinking of, gosh, what would have happened with Pinocchio if you would have switched out, say, Sydney Sweeney in that role as the Blue Fairy,
or Beyonce as the Blue Fairy,
or Beyonce, or Zendaya, even. I mean, the thing, and I remember the television show that was based on live action. There was some dark-haired girl as the Blue Fairy. I can't remember what her name was, but I mean, clearly a fairy can be played by virtually anybody, even male or female. But there's certainly stereotypes that people have in their head from fairy characters that they've seen in the past. That's fine. My biggest issue is, again, and I'll say this, it's funny, I really love the music from the Broadway play Wicked. I have a personal, I would say, acquaintance, somebody that I have personally worked with in a show a long time ago. So somebody I personally shared the stage with, who for a few years, I believe she played Ariana Grande's role on Broadway. So I have like some affinity connection with Wicked, even though I haven't seen the Broadway version of it myself full on. I wanted to go see the movie until I found out, and this has nothing to do with Cynthia Erivo, that Ariana Grande was starring as Glinda, because there's too much that I know about people who have had personal interactions with Ariana that have not gone well, and she just doesn't come across as a great person. And I can never, ever get the image of her licking the donut and saying what she said about Americans. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember that, Vash? The donut story? This was Ariana Grande. Okay, so this is actually a few years back, but she did something about licking a donut and said she can't stand Americans. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you? I don't. It's bothered me ever since. I can't get over that. The marketing for this, when you compare Sydney Sweeney today, and like what you said about the Dr. Squatch commercials, I've seen those. It's just a whole very different image from I hate to use the word, but the woke Hollywood that we see, that they've been really trying to push on us for the last, say, 5 years. And Sydney Sweeney has, I want to see her come up in some really, really good roles, some traditional roles. She hasn't really been given her opportunity to shine yet as an actress. And it's going to be very interesting to just see how her career goes versus, say, a Cynthia Erivo, depending on what roles they are given, what roles they choose over the next few years. Honestly, I still take it back to something Zachary Levi said recently, and that is that he's on the inside and he believes that Hollywood is dead. And you see that all over the place. There's just so many signs of Hollywood not reading the room, right? Not understanding the audience that they need to be going for. I think Wicked will do well at the box office. I'm not going to see it. I asked my wife if she wanted to go see it. She goes, "No, I don't." She doesn't like musicals, so it's probably not going to happen in our family, even though it's a huge movie. The next thing we're looking forward to is Sonic 3. So that's our big next movie. So it's just,
Well, given what I do, I'll be reviewing Wicked. I'll be reviewing Moana 2. I'll be reviewing Mufasa. And I can't wait to review Sonic the Hedgehog 3. So it's all coming up, folks. Hang right here with the channel, and we'll bring it to you as soon as we can. And it is time to put a bow on it, for this one, folks, is a gift to everybody who wants to know exactly what's going on in the entertainment industry. And we are so joyful that you were there to receive it. We hope that you had a great time. An attitude of gratitude on this channel every single time you decide to spend time with us. As we get ready to say goodbye, we only ask a few simple things. Click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. And folks, as you get ready to head out that door, do you have a place on social media that you love to share this sort of thing? Hey, you can make this YouTube video sing by putting it out there for your friends, your family, and for those weirdos who just won't leave you alone. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.